Not much, perhaps, but nevertheless, a trace she had left.
Nevertheless, the guy that I lived with.
Hey, welcome to TalkWord. This is the show where we dive deep and unlock the power of English, one word at a time. Today, we are tackling a really interesting one. It's a word you've definitely seen, but maybe you've been a little hesitant to use it yourself. We're talking about the small but mighty word, nonetheless. Now, you might be thinking, it's just another formal word, right? Well, yes and no. Trust me, learning how to use this one word correctly can add a whole new layer of sophistication to your English. It can be the difference between just sounding good and sounding truly fluent. So, let's break down how to do it. So here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to nail down what nonetheless actually means. Then, we'll see it in action in some real sentences. After that, we'll untangle it from its confusing relatives. And this is a big one. Then we'll look at some common mistakes to avoid. And finally, it's going to be your turn to try it out. Okay, let's dive right in. To really get a grip on nonetheless, we have to start with its main job in a sentence. So, at its very core, nonetheless is an adverb, and it has one primary mission: to introduce a surprise. It's a signal to your listener that whatever you're about to say is kinda unexpected given what you just said. Think of it as a more sophisticated way of saying, in spite of that. You know, what's really fascinating is that the word's meaning is actually hiding in plain sight. I mean, just break it down. Nonetheless. It's almost like you're saying that the second fact is no less true or no less important, despite the first fact you mentioned. It's a pretty clever and logical little word when you think about it that way. Okay, theory is great and all, but seeing the word actually being used, that's what really makes it stick. So let's look at a couple of clear, real-world examples. So in this first one, the first part sets up a negative situation, right? Cold, rainy weather. Logically, you'd expect the festival to be a total flop. But that word nonetheless completely flips that expectation. The festival was a success in spite of the awful weather. See the contrast? And here we have that same dynamic again. The first fact, he's exhausted. So what do you expect? He's gonna go rest, obviously, but nonetheless throws a wrench in that expectation. It highlights his surprising determination to push through his exhaustion. All right, now this is where things can get a little tricky, and honestly, it's where a lot of English learners get stuck. So let's take a minute and carefully untangle nonetheless from its close and often confusing relatives. However, nevertheless, and although. Let's start with however. Think of however as the common, everyday word you use for contrast. Nonetheless is like its more formal, powerful sibling. It just carries a stronger feeling of surprise. So if however simply points out a difference, nonetheless really emphasizes that the difference is unexpected. So what about nevertheless? Okay, these two are incredibly close, and a lot of the time you can even use them interchangeably. But there is a very subtle difference that will make you sound like a real pro. Nevertheless tends to focus more on the actions someone takes despite a challenge, while nonetheless focuses more on the surprising outcome itself. It's a tiny shift in focus, but a pretty powerful one. And finally, we have although. The biggest difference here is pure grammar. Nonetheless is an adverb that connects two separate, independent ideas. Although, on the other hand, is a conjunction. It has to introduce a dependent clause that's attached to a main clause, all inside one single sentence. So you can say, although it was raining, we went out. But you can't say, nonetheless, it was raining, we went out. See the difference? So, let's pull all of that together for a second. What we have right here is a quick little cheat sheet for you. It covers formality, function, and the best place to put each word in a sentence. This is a great little reference to keep handy while you're practicing. Knowing the differences is really half the battle. Now, let's focus on how to use nonetheless correctly every single time and avoid those common traps. Using it correctly is actually as easy as 1, 2, 3. Seriously, first, you state your initial fact or the obstacle. Second, you introduce the surprising result that goes against it. And third, you just use nonetheless as the bridge between them. Like this. The instructions were confusing. I assembled it correctly nonetheless. See? Simple. Perfect. So just to recap the main traps to watch out for, don't use it to start a clause. That's all those job. Remember its formality. It's not a simple replacement for the word but in a casual conversation. And most importantly, always make sure you're actually introducing a real surprise or a genuine contrast. All right, we have covered all the theory. We've looked at the examples. Now it's time for the most important part, letting you put this powerful little word to work. But before you do, here's a super quick rapid-fire summary. Nonetheless basically just means in spite of this. It's a more formal word you use to show a surprising contrast. Grammatically, remember it's an adverb, not a conjunction, and in most cases you can swap it with nevertheless and you'll be just fine. So, to wrap this all up, here is my challenge to you. What sentence can you create with nonetheless? Think about a real situation from your own life, maybe a challenge you overcame, or a surprising outcome you experienced. And hey, while you're brainstorming that perfect sentence, be sure to check out our companion mobile app. It's also called TalkWord, and it's the perfect place to practice everything you've learned here today. In the app, you can actually create your very own mini explainers, and you'll be guided by 2 friendly hosts. It's a really fun, interactive way to make this new vocabulary truly yours. That's all for today. Happy learning!
Nevertheless, I don't think your idea of having him followed is very practical.
No?